What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? We back here with the May podcast here. AY here. You got Malcolm over there. And today is a very special day. Today is the first day that we're going to start this new series that we're going to call basically, what are we going to call this? You want to just call it classical breakdown or appreciation of a classic?
Uh, yeah, we could do that.
Yes.
I guess.
Basically,
we're gonna figure out a title. We always come up with titles, so we're gonna figure it out.
But basically, so this will probably just be like under a new series of like a new playlist because this is something other than the typical podcast that we do. So basically, what we do is we'll take probably at least once a month, hopefully once a week, but we can make the promise to once a month that we can do this. We're gonna pick an album, rather it's a hip hop album or an R&B album. This is an album that we feel like is a classic and doesn't necessarily get the type of recognition that it does. And so, with the 2017, 4 years, yeah, with the 4 year anniversary of Flower Boy from Tyler the Creator coming up, we decided, why not give that a shot and talk about that. Although, if we're gonna be fair, actually, I was gonna say we could have talked about Damn first, but I feel like people already appreciate Damn enough for what it is.
Right. Yeah. So the premise of this is to pretty much give flowers, no pun intended, to albums that are really great albums, but don't necessarily, as you mentioned, get the recognition that it deserves, at least in our opinion, and at least in our eyes. So
I got the track list.
How do you want to? It's your.
I got the track list. I mean, we can.
I know the track list, but like,
yeah, I know, but still, I still got it up. So I got the track list up.
This is your one. Like, this is your.
I'm definitely on Genius.
Yeah, this is your whatchamacallit. I can start off because I'm pretty good with track lists or whatever. But
see, the thing is, I just wish we could play it. Just play it. But
we'll have to figure out the whole copyright thing. Yeah, that stuff.
I don't even want to try to mess with that. I don't even want to try to mess with that right now. But I mean, we could just
time or whatever. When we figure it out, we'll figure it out for sure.
I think so. I think it's important to try to like talk about who Tyler was before the album, like before this album came out, and his persona, and just also where he was coming from. Because in interviews when he did an interview, I forget the dude's name, but he's somebody that features on like all of the skit light tracks on Igor. He's the person that's always talking in like those tracks. So he did an interview with him, and he was talking about like where he was mentally before this album, and he was kind of in this little like in a sad state because he had done Cherry Bomb, and the whole thing with Cherry Bomb is that was music, like he was just making all kinds of beats, any type of beat that he wanted to rap on, he felt good. And he was talking about how a lot of people didn't necessarily like Cherry Bomb, and like one of the big issues he said that people have with Cherry Bomb is that a lot of times the beats, which this is true, the beats were like overpowering and you couldn't really hear what he was rapping, what he was saying when he was rapping. And so he was just talking about how, he starts really thinking about, where his career is, how people feel about his music. He starts taking all of this into consideration. And again, Tyler has always been somebody I would consider somebody that's more like a troll, somebody that doesn't really necessarily like, at least in his music, is always giving out that persona of he doesn't care. So he'll say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. Doesn't really care who he offends. He's just going to say whatever. And if it comes on his mind, he says he's going to say. He's always been that type of person. And so going into Flower Boy, I'm thinking, okay, it's an unusual title, but it's probably still going to be our usual title, with the Domo 23s, talking about, everybody suck my dick, calling people faggots, and, talking about how, he's ruffling feathers, and that's what he wants to do, and he doesn't really care. And then Forward starts playing. And it's this slow track, and it has like, I don't know. It's like I don't know what to call it, but in the background, it has like
a clicking. It has like a clicking sound, like a clock.
Yeah, exactly. Like a clock. Yeah. Because I mean, so the track is called Forward, but
metronome,
it's like a clock.
A metronome.
Yeah, there it is. It's
like a metronome.
It feels like a metronome, and I think it's very like. I think it makes a lot of sense to it because he starts talking about, it's like basically the first verse of the song to me is really just him talking about, how much time do I really have left? Like how much things can I do before I run out of time to do these things. So like he starts out by saying, how many cars can I buy till I run out of drive? And he keeps talking about, how much land can it be until I run the ocean? And he's basically just talking about, and his last thing is, how many fans can I have until they turn into AC? If the AC blow, then I'm TNT, I'm gone. So basically, to me, he's just, he's sitting down, he's really looking back at his career. He's like, how much time do I really have left to make music before I can't make music anymore? And my legacy has kind of been, finished. Who I am and the type of artist I am. And the way people describe me and think about me, how much time do I have to sort of forge this image in my music into who I wanted to be until it's this set image to where, okay, this is who I am and I can't escape that. So like with Jay-Z, for example, Jay-Z, when you think of Jay-Z, a lot of times you're going to think of somebody who's a braggadocious rapper who, he might not, his lyrics might not be like jam-packed with like messages. He might not be telling the greatest stories, but he's going to talk about, how many broads he has, or how many cars he has, how much money he has, how bad his wife is, and all this stuff. When you listen to Jay-Z, you expect to listen to somebody who's bragging about who they are and what they have and what they've done in life. And so, to me, it's like Tyler's really thinking here, and he's really sitting here and contemplating with himself, saying, how much time do I have left until who I am and who my music is and how people view my career has been solidified to the point where I can't change what I am. That's verse 1. Any thoughts?
Hey, there's no better way I could have broke that down. No, but honestly, all right, you focus more on the lyrics, and I'm more of a lyrics guy myself, but it just draws the combination, the culmination of the lyrics mixed in with like it starts off well, I think that he meant to do that, because you kind of get that gist from like a lot of the tracks throughout the album. They kind of starts off mellow, right? Try to get you something bright, cheerful, or whatever,
right?
And then he kind of like makes it or dark a little bit more. I don't know, like leery towards the back end or whatever. Like there's like a droning going on, like kind of like his reinvigoration of like the modern day blues, if that makes sense, like with how he's producing these tracks or whatever. But yeah, man, like he kind of goes into like this, we call this a stream of consciousness, where you tap into like a pocket where you're just like picking your own brain, so to speak, right, on this track. And I feel like this kind of gave you a hint that he was going to be very introspective on this album or whatever. And I feel like he kind of knew that like that had to be the opener, just so you can kind of get a gist of what type of album this was going to be.
Right. I feel like the whole song, basically the premise of the song could be summed up by the bridge, which is sung by Rex Orange County. And basically the bridge is, I'm gone and I'm gone and I'm finished, and I ain't seen my friends in a minute. Guessing nothing lasts forever. Yeah, nothing lasts forever. Nothing sticks together. Sick of sitting in doubt. Please let me figure this out. So basically, it's just him, like I said, with the first verse, he's sitting there really thinking about his career, and he's having doubts about the type of impact that he's had, and if he can even change the impact that he's had and really point his career into a trajectory that he feels like he can take it in and where he wants to take it. Because I remember watching this interview that he did after Igor released. It wasn't an interview. It was his Twitter. He was releasing tweets after he released Igor, and how, everybody was liking Igor. It was number one. He was like, man, if only I was making music like I have been for the past, like, let's say 3-4 years. Because in that time with Flower Boy and Igor, he was like, man, if only I had been making music like that when I started making music. But I feel like that takes away a lot of the beauty that is Tyler and his career. It's the fact that he's done something that's hard for artists to do, and it's evolved their sound and changed their sound. Once they, he already had a fixed sound, a fixed style, and a fixed, how people thought of him, but he's able to evolve and change his music to something that elevates him and his greatness. And so it takes him to a new level, and that's something that, it's hard to hear artists do that. Not a lot of artists do that, right? Throughout all of Kanye's music. I wouldn't say Kanye has a change like Tyler does at all. Same thing with Jay-Z or Eminem, although he tried to do it with Revival, but then I feel like he reverted right back to his older ways when he released Kamikaze again. And so you hear all these artists who, oftentimes they won't reinvigorate their sound, won't reinvent themselves, and then when they do, it's usually not successful, and so they all end up having to go back to how they were originally. But that's what to me makes people like Tyler, like Kendrick, and like J. Cole to a little bit of an extent, because he's done it a little bit, not as successfully as I feel like somebody like a Kendrick or a Tyler has, to where they've been able to reinvent their sound. And Kendrick so much that every Kendrick album has this distinct sound, this distinct feeling. You feel like this is a new chapter in the type of music that he creates. And with Tyler, you sort of get like this similar feeling from Goblin all the way to Cherry Bomb. And then all of a sudden it's this huge shift when Flower Boy comes out. And then it's another shift when Igor comes out. And I feel like being able to pull off those shifts is something that I feel like he should get credit for. We should definitely give him his flowers for, especially artists and other artists who can do that too. Rihanna's in that category too.
I'm about to say another well said slew of words. All right, let's hop into track 2, Where This Flower Blooms. For me, this is. I'm about to say, yeah, this is like
that piano is beautiful.
I was so happy when I heard Frank on this song. I'm about to say it was so beautiful. Like the intro was so beautiful. I was Frank Ocean on this feature, even though I wanted a little bit more. And but that's the thing. I think that's Frank Ocean's niche. Like when he's a feature, he only wants to be like a snippet of the track. Like he did that on Travis Scott. And on a slew of projects where he doesn't want to take over the show. He just want to be a part of the show, which is pretty dope. But yeah, Where This Flower Blooms or whatever. Again, another bright, melodic, awe-inspiring track where he pretty much kind of touches on the same stuff as track 1, but makes it a little bit more. It's called I forget what it's called. I forget what it's called in theater or whatever. But I'll just call it the blinding effect, right? You blind the audience with a beautiful track and like the melody, right, to kind of hide the fact that it's still like some, like, I guess depressing material there still. But you're trapped, or not necessarily trapped, but you have a veil over your face because of how melodic and how beautiful the track is or whatever. But he's still talking about the same subject matter he was talking about in the first track, about his uncertainty as a rapper or whatever. And then even though he brags a tad bit about the things that he have, really it's used as like a self-defense mechanism, which you can kind of get a gist of that as you look into the other tracks too as well. But yeah, I love Where This Flower Blooms or whatever, and I like the underlying metaphor. You're hilarious. I wish you had the camera. But I like the underlying metaphor, man. I'm a poetry enthusiast. I love the underlying metaphor of like where the flower blooms. So this kind of idea of like him, you know what I'm saying, blooming into this new. And then honestly, this is like a foreshadowing of him blooming into a new artist for real, because like he's kind of telling you like, this is like the new Tyler, like this is who I am as an artist now. Like it was cool when I made The Wolf, it was cool when I made Cherry Bomb, it was cool when I made Goblin, but right now I'm in form right now, and I feel like that's dope that he kind of like gave like a little foreshadowing of like where the album was headed and pretty much where his career is heading right now. So
yeah, when I think of this song, I think of it as, you know, he's sort of reflecting, talking about, you know, but he's really reflecting on, you know, I've really just said, you know, like 3 times in a row. That's gross. But he's reflecting on where he's came from, essentially, all this progress that he's made. Because he's talking about, you know, originally he's talking to, you know, let's take it back to when I was that little kid who used to sit there and, you know, even in the song, he talks about how, like, he went from a statistic to a millionaire. So he's talking about how, originally starts his life as like this nobody who really just enjoyed music, enjoyed creating, being this creative individual to now, he's somebody that people look up to. He makes music, people enjoy it, and he's really starting to like find his groove as a person and as a musician. I feel that's what Flower Boy really is him really finding his groove as a musician, his like true signature style. And so he's really starting to come into who he is as a person. So he's talking about, where this flower blooms because he's essentially going through everything that has led to him blooming. He's the flower that's blooming. He's essentially telling everybody, this is where I came from. This is how I feel about myself. And now I'm blooming. And now you guys are starting to see, the fruits of my labor, everything that's starting to come to fruition from me blooming at this time. So it's time to go to track 3.
Yeah. And then we hop into Sometimes, right? Which I consider I consider this it's 36 seconds. I consider it pretty much 1 second. Hard.
Sometimes I sit in my room, think about us. Hey, it's Golf Radio. You're on the air with Shane Powers.
But yeah, so I guess I'll start from the top. Yeah. So the next track is Sometimes, right? And Sometimes it's pretty much a skit. It's 36 seconds. And it's pretty much like a skit of him kind of like preluding like the lonely track that's going to come up. And also like he's asking for a story about him or whatever. Skit or whatever, which I didn't know what that meant at first because I was just like, so I was kind of confused by like why he chose to like make a skit about the radio, which I'm still kind of, even after like a few listens, I'm still kind of tampering with like the actual meaning that he tries to like infuse into the album with like the radio, because it's not the first time he does like something with the radio where he's trying to like, you know what I'm saying, like mood or maybe change like, or trying to signify like, again, I just pretty much like attribute it to him trying to highlight his change as an artist or whatever. But sometimes it's a good, I will call it the interlude that leads perfectly into See You Again, which is easily our favorite, like, which is both of our favorite.
I wouldn't say that's my favorite song, but I love that. That's one of my favorites. I love that song so much.
Favorite track on the album.
I love that shit so much. Okay.
We can just skip to See You Again because sometimes it's pretty much what's.
Yeah, basically,
But See You Again is another.
Hold on. Let me say something about Sometimes, man. God damn, no, I'm just kidding. But basically, what Sometimes is to me is really just like a daydream sequence. It's just him just sort of sitting in his room and just sitting there and just daydreaming. Right? It's basically an introduction, a prelude to See You Again. So. And to me, See You Again is all like him daydreaming about this person that he only sees in his dreams. And so sometimes it's sort of like the framing of like, we're seeing, like I picture it as, sometimes it's him laying down either in his bed or on like the floor in his room, just sitting there staring at like the ceiling, looking at the fan. And you got these chords playing as he's daydreaming about it. And slowly as, it starts transitioning into See You Again. We slowly start to zoom in on like his face or like him, and eventually we go inside his head, and then we see the daydream, which is See You Again. That's how I view that track. Okay. Oh, you live in my dream.
Yeah, See You Again is another beautiful track. The vocals are incredible. I can't, like, me describing it wouldn't do it justice, but another ballad, so to speak. And I really, and now that I think about it, I really do get like I don't know. We talk about him too much, and I'm but it seems like he has a handprint on a lot of artists. Like I just get a heavy Kanye influence here. Not necessarily 808 because 808 wasn't this melodic. Maybe I could say like Graduation maybe here a tad bit, not extremely, but a tad bit when it comes to how he's trying to make this song into like a ballad song, if that makes sense. Because Kanye really focused on like making songs ballads, right? Something where like if you take it to the stadium, the whole crowd is going to sing or whatever. And this song to me is really, really like it's so soulful. Like it's so and and like by track 4, you got like I guarantee anybody that was listening to the album, by track 4, they're probably thinking, okay, at some time he's going to do a song that's like reminiscent of like what he's done before, but he still is kind of on this like melodic, like soulful, I don't know, like trip or whatever. And we're expecting him to like get out of that soon, and he's still there. And we're kind of like, wow, like he's really, really buying into like this sound and this pocket that he's in. But "See You Again" is a beautiful song. Yeah, and in terms of lyrics, it kind of touches on well, I can't even say it touches on him being sad because it kind of touches on some of the vices he has a little bit too. It's kind of similar to Forward a little bit in terms of him doing like internalizing himself again. All right, because he's talking about like how he has like an infatuation with certain stuff that don't necessarily mean much to him in the grand scheme of things or whatever. When he'll tap into that again when he talks about his cars and other items and stuff that he had, which kind of also reminds me of when Kanye had a song called Welcome to Heartbreak with Kid Cudi on 808s and Heartbreak. He was talking about,
I said heart.
He was talking about how, you know, his cousin showed me pictures of, like, he pretty much said his cousin showed him pictures of his kids. But the only thing he could show him was a picture of his crib.
Pictures of my cribs.
Exactly. So I just think this is also just like you said, a daydream, right? But I feel like he kind of wakes himself up out of that daydream when he realizes that, like, you know, a lot of the stuff that he's infatuated with doesn't really mean much to him in the grand scheme of things. So
this song to me is basically just a daydream. It's just him, you know, dreaming about the perfect person that he only sees in his dreams, right? The person who is basically of his dreams. He only sees his dreams because that person only exists in his dreams, and so it's just him, you know, talking about how he wish he could see them all the time, but he can't. So, you know, he just basically is like, you know, just be there when I come back to sleep. But I think it's brilliant because the transition from this into the next song is what, Pothole, right? Yeah, I think it's brilliant because like you're getting the trumpets playing, you're getting actually, this. It is Pothole. No, it's Who Dat Boy. Never mind. It's Who Dat Boy. Yeah, my bad.
Because they do a snippet. Because you know how like sometimes they do a
yes.
A couple times he did a snippet of a song and then he'll like fake you out.
I'm thinking ahead. My bad. But so the next song is Who Dat Boy.
Yeah, he did that again with Lonely, where he played a snippet of it, left it, and then came back to it later. So, yeah. So I'm actually glad that it's a subtle difference, but I'm glad that he did Who Dat Boy for what's up? Huh? Yeah. We should leave at 3. All right, at 3. But yeah, Who Dat Boy? Who Dat Boy?
I love the tension in the build.
You said what? Yeah, probably too. I'll just have to let my boss know. But yeah, the Who Dat Boy? I'm glad that it had like a subtle shift between the single and the album version, because the album version it still builds the tension, but it's much more of a faster build. and they try to cut to the chase a little bit faster. Whereas like the one in the single, like it was like a slow burn build into the track. And I think that this is so here. I feel like this is another pump fake. So we talked about Tyler being a troll. This is him being a troll in a different way because he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you these melodic tracks. All right, now I'm about to give you something hard. Now what he's doing is he's making you think like, oh, the melodic tracks was a way of him like doing something different, and now he's about to go back to whatever. But if you really look at it, he does this like harder track, right? And then goes back to being somber and goes back to being introspective and laid back and whatnot in the next few tracks or whatever. So this is kind of his way of being like a troll, but like in an artistic way, if that makes sense. But Who Dat Boy is, there's not much I can say about it. Like he spazzed on Who Dat Boy, like in terms of rapping, and that's the thing. Like I feel like we talk a lot about of this him.
Bars,
but like we're talking a lot about how you know, when he makes music, he's doing what he wants to do, like he doesn't care or whatever. But yes, that while that is the case, that doesn't dismiss the fact that he can actually rap and really good when he chooses to. When he chooses to focus on, you know, being lyrical, whatever. Like, yeah, he puts out really good performances. A$AP Rocky also had a really feature. And although like A$AP Rocky is lyrical to me, but like his bread and butter is just his flow pattern, and his flow pattern here was crazy. And he was only, I think his verse was only like a minute and some change. Then they did like a back and forth little exchange or whatever for a little bit, and then yeah, Tyler took it home. But yeah, no, Who Dat Boy is another great project. Now, granted, when we played it for Leon in the car, I think it's primarily the production that he didn't care for.
The because, boy like, drips swag like a broken faucet, Malcolm. Oh, damn! Come on, bro.
But I will say it's not a song you can just play anywhere. But it's most definitely hard. But it's weird because like it's like the beat is so weird because it's a hard beat, but it's also kind of playful because he's kind of like pretty much making a satire horror beat, right, with that little creeping sound in the background to kind of signify like Who Dat Boy as like a person that's like a serial killer or whatever that's lurking in the back or whatever. But no, like this track is great. The production is dope. The feature was great. Both of their verses were great. I liked how they played off of each other. And this is one of the tracks that kind of encourage people, both Tyler the Creator fans and A$AP Rocky fans alike, to want and anticipate a collab album because they've had great work together.
The Potato Salad is another great song with them.
Yeah.
I really like that
classic
song too.
Beat.
But for me, again, the song builds tension, and basically the whole point of the song is, you know, I feel like it's rising in tension. It's like, who is that boy? He's trying to say, it's me. I'm that. Basically, he's basically saying I'm that nigga, and he's trying to, you know, show off that he can actually, you know, he actually can rap. He can do this rap shit, and so this is really just him just showing off his rap skills and saying, you know, I can really rap. I'm like that when it comes to rapping. I can rap a lot better than a lot of you guys realize. And so this is just me gonna have fun. I'm gonna have fun on the beat. I'm gonna flow, but I'm also gonna give y'all bars because I feel like it's important for me as a rapper to make sure that I give you guys bars because a lot of the time that's what you guys are gonna come here for anyways, regardless if I'm super lyrical or not.
As a rapper, you said you as a oh, I was about to say I thought you meant you as in you. You said
no.
It's important for me as a rapper to give you these bars. So I was like, huh? Rapper?
No, I was speaking like I was him. So yeah, but I really love the song. I love the energy of the song. The song gives me hype. I could play that song anytime and be fine. I love that song. But I love the transition from Who Dat Boy to Pothole because, you know, the beat's playing. You sort of get lost in it. You're just, you know, in a zone, and all of a sudden, just like when you know you're driving and you hit a pothole that you don't see, the beat just stops, and Tyler literally hits a pothole and goes, "Oh shit!" And then the next song plays. I love that. I love the production of this whole album, but Pothole might be my favorite beat on the whole album. I love it. My favorite instrumental might be that.
It's weird because I feel like in the decade of the 2010s, right?
Yeah.
There were sounds that were very futuristic, but was also retro-esque. Like they infused like retro aspects of production with like something like there was like a nuance to it. I don't know how to explain it, but Potholes was most definitely a track that I really enjoyed too. And it's like, and it's crazy because it's crazy to say this is your favorite beat. I can understand why, because it's a good beat, but it's the most like, I don't know how to explain it. It's one of the most like lower key, less overt like beats that he had on the album. But I can see why it's your favorite just because of like the undertone of it. But yeah, no, Potholes is a really, really great song or whatever. Another kind of introspective track, you know, where he's kind of talking about like his personal life for real, like this his alignment to, you know, the rap industry, to families, friends, relationships, and then just having to be careful for like whatever journey you're on, the metaphorically speaking, or of the potholes or whatever. And so beautifully created by Jaden Smith in the hook or whatever. You know, yeah, I don't have much to say about Pothole. It's just a good song. Like, I don't know. Like, it's the break. And then, that's another thing we haven't really highlighted. The breakdowns at the end of these songs are incredible. Like, on each song that he has like a breakdown, it is so incredible. Like, it's like, sometimes the breakdowns are incredible when you want those breakdowns to be their own separate track. Like, that's how you know it's incredible. Like a lot of the breakdowns at the end of these songs be like so beautifully crafted. But yeah, no, I like Pothole. You can go ahead and here's one of your favorite tracks. We're gonna have to edit that part out too.
No, we not. But I like the first verse. I think it's real creative because at the end of the day, he's talking about, you know, how there are these problems in life. You know, you always have to watch, and that's what a pothole essentially represents. It's a problem in life that sometimes problems in life kind of sneak up on you. And, you know, sometimes you don't see them coming. Sometimes it's too late and you have to deal with the problem as soon as you meet it. Whereas a lot of times in life, there's times where you can see the problem coming and you have time to prepare for it. But a pothole to me really represents a problem that you didn't necessarily see and you didn't have time to prepare for that problem. You have to deal with it as soon as you hit it. But what I like about this whole verse is the fact that, again, he's talking about life, but he's framing it in a perspective of, you know, he's still in his car driving. So like his whole life is the car that he's driving. And how, like, you know, he talks about how the streets were filled with some clues, like how he didn't notice that because his mom's telling him, you know, you have to watch out who you trust. And his mom's basically saying, you know, you can only trust me and your manager. Those are really the only two people you should really trust. Anybody else, you have to be careful. And he talks about how, like, he was, like, through life, there are times where he's like, he'll look back at something. He's like, damn, like, there were signs that this person may not have had my best interest at heart. This might not have been the best relationship to be in. Not necessarily like a romantic relationship, but like a friendship, any type of relationship. And he's like, damn, how didn't I see the clues? How did I see like the street signs that were there and anything like that? And so I like how he relates it to that. I like how he talks about, you know, he's talking about, you know, how he wants to help some people, but, you know, some people don't necessarily want help from themselves, even though they need it.
Right.
And it goes back to, you know, the thing where you can only help people who want to help themselves. And so he talks about how he's in a dilemma because he wants to help them, so he wants to stay, but he also has other things that he needs to do. So he's in this time frame. He's like, do I stay or do I go? And he talks about traffic starting to pick up. His life is things in his life are really starting to click. Are really starting to push. He has his deal with Converse. He's doing all these other things, but outside of music, just creatively. And so he's basically sitting there, and he's like, do I stay here and try to help people, even though life's starting to pick up, and I don't necessarily have time, and I'll get stuck where I am, and I won't be able to move, or do I hurry up and take off so I can keep doing what I want to do in my life? And to me, it sounds like he eventually decides that he can't wait for the people who he's trying to wait for because they don't necessarily want help. So he's just going to move on and continue to live his life and do what he wants with his life. That's what that first verse says to me. And then, again, I want to talk about, what is that thing? Is it the second verse? Yeah, because he only has 2 verses on the song. Yeah, so the second verse, he's basically, I feel like that, it's a little important to talk about how, he talks about how he's lonely, and he's talking about, all his friends are talking about their girls, and he can only sell them cars and other things that he's made, rather that's creatively, like his brand with Converse, golf, like the things he's made with golf, whether that's clothes or shoes, or his music. Those are the only things he ever has to show for himself. So other people in his life might have people that they can show. He only has material things, and I feel like that's a theme that always comes back, because again, he always talks about how he has cars. And we'll talk about it later in a later song in 911 and Mr. Lonely, but and in November too. But he always talks about how he has these material things to show off, but he doesn't necessarily have the type of people and these type of relationships that he wishes he had to show off in life. And so I feel like that's an important premise, because that's a theme that we constantly see repeating, whether it's from we just talked about this song. Not sometimes. See You Again. Rather it's See You Again, talking about, the dream person that he doesn't have, or he's talking about, how all of his other friends have this special somebody in their life, have a special connection, special person in their life, and he's only here to talk about material things that he has, or the cars he owns, or the music and the project he's working on. He can only talk about material things that he has, where these people have these relationships that he wishes he has. I think it's also in Who That Boy. He talks about how he's currently looking for 90. I think it's 95 Leo. But again, he's always talking about looking for that one special person that he wishes was in his life, that he doesn't necessarily feel like he. Well, actually, let me change that. I feel like he feels like he needs that person to sort of complete his life fully. He's okay without that person. He'll still live life and do what he wants without that person. But it kind of hurts seeing, everybody around him has these people, that type of special person in their life, and he has yet to find that special person for him. And then the breakdown, oh my God. Ooh, ooh,
ooh. Yeah, he has some great breakdowns and on this album. Then we hit Garden Shed. Then Garden Shed is track 7, halfway through the album. And for the most part, halfway through the album, it's been all serious, material, no gimmicks. The Garden Shed, here's the thing. I'm going to really let you tackle this a little bit more, because I just have one message that I want to get out there pertaining to this song. Jay-Z said it best. When you listen to music, you're supposed to listen to music, not skim through it. What I mean by that is that when this song first came out, everybody jumped to their keyboard and just immediately made claims about Tyler's sexuality, him coming out the closet, and all type of stuff. And I feel like the issue with that is that you're kind of diminishing the overall value to the song and the overall value to the work he put out, right? Because at the end of the day, you're only focused on him, but not the work he put into this song, nor the sentiment and message that he was trying to get across in this song. So that's the only thing I have to say about that. When you go into a song like Garden Shed or whatever, that's obviously very, very, a very, very vulnerable track. Try to listen to it for the sake of trying to fully grasp the song and not just decipher whether he's gay or not. That's all I really got to say pertaining to that song. You can get into the mix and cranny of that, but that's been something that's always bothered me about people and their reception to that song.
I really enjoyed the song because it's a way of coming out. And again, the whole theme of the album is a flower board, so you know the heavy on the garden themes and things that involve flowers. But I think something that's important is to pay attention to the chorus, and the chorus goes, "Don't kill a rose before it could bloom. Fly, baby, fly out the cocoon." So I feel like that's sort of a touch.
Which sidebar?
Go ahead.
Estelle was the one with the vocals or whatever, and I feel like it's a very important thing to mention because a lot of people just feel like she kind of fell off the edge of the earth after American Boy and all that stuff, but she actually has a grand role in a lot of background, a lot of background or being a background vocalist or whatever. She just doesn't like. She takes heed to not having to be in the forefront and making beautiful music, but she's still around. She's still active, and she had a pivotal role in like the vocals on this track. But go ahead.
But I feel like he's talking about himself and talking about again he's talking about he's felt like this since a youth and he thought it was just a phase, and he talks about how I feel like often people who end up I don't want to say becoming, but people who end up who we end up finding out later in life themselves finding out that they're homosexual is that a lot of the times they think it's just a phase. I think that part of that I think that's very damaging to think like that, because that's sort of trying to like maybe not fully
accept or try to diminish.
Not accept. I don't want to say accept. I want to say validate. There it is. Not fully validate their feelings and say that it's okay to feel that way. Like these are like genuine feelings. I feel like saying something's just a phase is sort of like is a way to sort of invalidate something. And so he's talking about don't kill a rose before it blooms. Don't try to say that it's a phase because there's a chance that it might not be a phase. And so if it ends up not being a phase, you saying it's a phase is sort of a way of you sort of invalidating these person's feelings. And so he's just saying, don't do that to people and just let people bloom into who they are. Let them be who they're supposed to be. Let them become the butterfly that they're meant to be on their own, and don't necessarily try to invalidate their feelings, or don't try to cut the rosebud off before it has the chance to bud into the rose. So I feel like the whole point of that song is him basically saying, I felt like this for a while. This is me coming out, but it's not just about me. You guys have to be careful with these feelings. You have to make sure that you validate people who are in these positions, because oftentimes these people who are homosexual and they hide it, a lot of times is because they feel like if they tell somebody that they're not going to validate their feelings, not going to validate, that part of their person. And so I feel like that's something that's very damaging. So that's what I get that part from the song too. But again, like I love the beginning of it because it's just nice, soothing little.
It's
beat.
It's a huge build up. Such a huge build up.
But it's worth it.
Yeah.
So what's next now?
Boredom. Another song you like.
Bro. I think this is the perfect driving song. Perfect driving song. If anytime I just go out, like let's say, because usually when I go out for a drive just to like collect my thoughts or something, it'll be in the afternoon. This is the first song I play. Every time. This is the first song I play. Like, I have to play this song.
Yeah. Boredom is another great track. Another great, like he's made a theme of like having great build-ups and having great ride-outs in these tracks. Boredom is another great track, kind of in the same vein as like See You Again Forward, where this flower blooms, in terms of like it being very melodic, being very soulful. Being heavy on the instrumentation. I really like this track. When it comes to boredom, I think he uses boredom as like a metaphor for purpose, kind of, because when he speaks, like when you think of boredom, right, you think of not knowing what to do or not having anything to do. Obviously, he has plenty to do, but when he's saying it's boredom to it, it's pretty much saying he doesn't feel any like value or any purpose behind the things that he's doing, or you know what I'm saying. I feel like this is a nod to not just like the phases he was in, or you got to think, because I try to think of the music being in the time frame when they made it, opposed to where they are at the current moment. So this could very well been like a track he made in that moment where he was still trying to figure out the direction of this album or whatever, or the direction that he was going to take with his career. So this could very well be a testament to, or him alluding to like the boredom that he has with the music he's making and his life at this point, because at the same time he's kind of already divulged information that a lot of the stuff that he placed heavy value in doesn't really hold any real value in him anymore. Like, and then even when he uses like you mentioned before, he used the metaphors like the car, right? Mm-hmm. And like the reason why the car means so much to him is because it's the thing that's taking him through his journey. But when you realistically think about it, something like a car, something that he brags about heavily, really doesn't hold much value to him. Like the actual car itself doesn't hold much value to him. It's the journey that he's taking that like has a lot of value in it. And I think he just really takes the time to once again like just analyze the state that he's in, where he is headed, and where he wants to be. And like I said, I feel like this boredom is the overall metaphor for purpose, or it was supposed to be a song about purpose and value. And that in itself is already a great concept.
So since I've seen that interview he did after releasing Flower Boy, I take this song a lot more literal than that's, just because he talks about literally, like if you go through the lyrics, it just seems like he's just talking about being bored, and he talks about how like when he wrote this song literally sitting in his room waiting on Jasper to respond to his text so they could go get food or go do something. And so like to me this song is just literally basically him being like, okay, so just I'm wipe bored. Out all that I just said. No, I mean I think that's what's great about music, is you can sort of bring these things from it, but again, like
interpret it whatever way, right?
Yeah, but for him, he was essentially just talking about, he was like, yeah, I was just, sitting there waiting for Jasper to respond so we could go get food, and he just wasn't responding. So, he wrote this song, and these were just all the thoughts that were going through his head while he was bored, waiting for somebody to hit him up with plans, with something to do on that day. So that's where that song comes from. But
I think that makes it even more dope, because it's not like he didn't put much time into it. This is just organically happened. Sometimes that's the best work.
Love the song. Again, I think it's
procrastinator.
I think it's the perfect driving song. I really do. If you want to go take a Sunday afternoon drive, put Boredom on. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. The best driving song of all time, in my opinion. I gotta play that every time. So we just did Boredom. So what we got? I Ain't Got Time. Hey, it's really two songs where he focused on rapping, and this is song number 2 where he's really focused on rapping.
Yeah, and again, another pump fake. He said they're like, okay, he's back to the hard stuff. So that means he's about to go. They're probably thinking, and I was probably thinking around this time, all right, he gave us half of the album where he's on this somber, low key, like depressing type stuff. Now he's about to bring the high energy type music towards the back end of the album, and still another pump fake. But nah, I Ain't Got Time is another great project or whatever. Our project, great song, great track or whatever. Where he's focused on his rapping. He's very aggressive on this track. The beat has such a nice bounce to it, man. Like that beat has such a bounce. I probably like I Ain't Got Time, that beat, more than the Who Dat Boy beat. Even though Who Dat Boy, well, yeah, no, I ain't gonna lie. I like I Ain't Got Time better just because that breakdown he had at the end with the beat, another great breakdown with that beat on I Ain't Got Time. Just the rapping was crazy. Yeah, man. I love that. Honestly, yeah, this is probably one of my top 3 tracks on that album that I really, really enjoy or whatever. But yeah, no, and it's crazy because like you kind of, and it's funny because you kind of knew this was going to be hard because it kind of starts off the same way that Who Dat Boy
they're very
starts
similar,
off with like a little so I think he did that on purpose so you can kind of know what type of song it was going to be. I think everything except for obviously Boredom because he pretty much said he did that out of the whatever. But I feel like everything he does is meant to be deliberate here. There's no real. I mean, there's some things you have to dig into a little bit. But there's no real, and I mean, I guess there's always ambiguity when it comes to music. But I feel like he kind of wanted something to be tangible with each track, like something you can like deliberately like grasp throughout the song. But yeah, no, I Ain't Got Time is one of my favorites on the album for sure.
Again, it's another bar heavy song, but the part I enjoy about this song is he talks about how Nat Turner would be proud of him because he put all these like white boys on. Like he has all these white boys, copying his style, listening to his music, basically worshiping where he walks on. And I don't know. I think that's interesting. He's right though. I feel like that's how a lot of hip hop artists are in general. Is like these white America kind of worships them to an extent and to a degree.
I do think that Tyler most definitely has a wider grasp and a wider influence because he wasn't making traditional rap music,
right?
So he most definitely out of any of the rappers, he most definitely had like the wider grasp over that demographic because like a lot of people like resonated or not necessarily resonated, but were interested in this music. Damn. Like heck, he was he got like the first year he came out, he got like that's how you knew you're really really tapping into white culture on a mass scale is when you get that VMA because he got a VMA his first year that he released something.
Yeah, bro.
First major release.
Yeah, it was Bastard, bro. We didn't even talk about the beat switch. Oh my god. Doom 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 doom. Bro,
that's what I was saying. That breakdown at the end was crazy.
Oh my god. Next line, I'm gonna have him like, "Whoa, I've been kissing white boys since 2004. 1, me, 2, 3. Oh my This nigga is great. I don't care what nobody says. He is great. And now my Genius wants to crash. Not working. I don't know what the fuck going on with my MacBook, but it's not cooperating with me right now. Hold on. So what's next? I think 911 and Mr. Lonely are next.
Mr. Lonely, yep. Featuring Frank Ocean, Steve Lacy. Again, Frank Ocean with just another snippet. He wasn't trying to take over the show. He was trying to be a part of the show. Chirp. 911 was... I feel bad, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I really try not to diminish the value of the whole track. But I like the first part of the song more than the second, and I think it's just primarily... Now, in terms of subject matter, I like the Mr. Lonely part better. But in terms of like as an overall track, like if they were to separate it, I probably would like 911 just because of like it's so beautiful and like just the sample and like the little interpolation of like the Tony Tone track was crazy. Like. And then, yeah, man, like, I don't know, man, like that, the 911 is just so beautiful. It's so retro, but at the same time, like, new. Like, I don't know. I like 911 and Mr. Lonely, but 911
I like him because, again, it's retrospective. And, I'm a big fan of the retrospective music. He talks about, how he's the loneliest man alive, but he keeps on dancing to throw him off. So like if you were to look at him and look how he carries himself and look how he acts, you would never think that he's this lonely person. He really suffers from being lonely and he suffers from feeling lonely. You would think that he's like this happy-go-lucky person all the time, which he is. And in the interview, he talks about, how he is a lonely person, but that doesn't mean he still can't be happy and be a lonely person. So I think that's part of the dichotomy of the second half of the song. It's this upbeat, this up-tempo beat, this beat that, you could use to get somebody hyped. But he's talking about being lonely and talking about, how he often feels like the loneliest one in the room. And I think, again, part of that goes back to, he's around people who oftentimes he sees these people that have that special somebody in their life, and he doesn't have that special somebody in his life at all. And then, he also talks about, again, he's just around cars all the time. But I think one of my favorite line in that whole song is, I never had a pet, never had a dog. So like so he said I was never good with bitches because I never had a dog. I think that's it. I think that's clever. That's a clever line to me because you're talking about like you play.
Yeah, because people on the surface would think like it's just like okay, he's calling like he's doing it, but he's saying like he can't handle companionship on like a major level because he's
never had to deal with companionship
at like a minute level. Right. So
he's only ever really had like one consistent companion in his life, and that's his mom. His dad, he doesn't even really know his dad. His dad's never been in his life. It's really just been him and his mom for a majority of his life, and so he struggled. I feel like part of that is he struggles with companionship, and he's just trying to find ways on why he's so lonely, why he's struggling with companionship, and one of the ways that he may feel like he struggles is he's never had a pet, so he's never had a dog, so he's never been good with having to deal with others. Because he's never had to really deal with other people other than his mom. So that's why I like that track. But what's after that?
Oh, last sidebar. I did not mean to say Tony.
No, I know what
I meant to say. I meant to say the Gap Band, Outstanding, because they did a little interpolation there. Call me sometime. Like that was the interpolation that they did. But yeah, the next song was "Dropping Seeds."
Oh, that's a dope interlude. That's a dope interlude.
Yeah, it's another dope interlude. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory.
Lil Wayne just freestyled on the beat around having to deal with things I had to deal with flowers, rather with seeds. Oh my god.
But he low key subtly kind of like. He subtly tried to make it known that like he's the reason why a lot of the rappers rap the way they do. So he's pretty much the one that dropped the seeds and allowed the game to flourish and allow other artists to bloom in the rap game now. So I feel like that's very clever. It's dope, and it kind of gave you the idea of like the way that he was headed en route to Carter 5 that was kind of kept in the stash for a minute. But yeah, no, that was a dope interlude. So you can just hop straight to November, which I'm pretty sure is another favorite of yours.
That's my favorite song in terms of subject matter. Yes. It's a song I feel like I can relate to a whole lot. Say something more. Never want to talk about it so the reason why I'm a big fan of this song is because basically November is just this idea, this event or this place where you felt at peace, where you felt your happiest, right. And he's just basically he wants to go back there, and I feel that especially like because about a year after this song came out. Well, it was less than a year, but in 2018, I went through that big breakup, and so oftentimes I would always, I'd always often be thinking sad thoughts, and oftentimes, I would want to go back to a place, basically to my November, to a place that I was happier. I would often try to think of a place where I was happier, and all these other things. But I think it's interesting because he starts out the song again. It's relative to the beginning of the album, the first song, Forward, where he's talking about, what if his manager is screwing him over? What if people don't enjoy Who That Boy? What if he's, what if all this stuff that he's doing doesn't pan out? Everything that he's doing, everything he's working towards doesn't pan out. He talks about thinking how he doesn't have any classics, which he does now. I feel like he has 2 classics now. But again, he talks about, he's having this fear that he doesn't have any classics, and he's feeling the pressure from himself, not necessarily from anybody else. He's putting a whole bunch of tremendous pressure on himself to do these things that he wants to do, to live the life he wants to, and to make the type of music that he wants to do. He's putting tremendous pressure on himself, and putting that type of pressure on yourself isn't healthy, and so it's making him sort of have these type of doubts. Have I trusted the right people? Am I really good at this music stuff? Am I making songs that people can relate to and can emulate and can listen to and enjoy over and over? Or are people just, gonna get tired and think, all these songs are just the same old shit that I always put out? And so, that's why I really like the song, because it's introspective, and he's just talking about, take me back to this time to where, I don't have to think about all this other stuff. I can just sort of be in the moment. And I feel like November is just trying to get to this place where you don't have to think about the future or the past. It's a place where you can just live in the moment, which is ironic that he's talking about taking him back to a time in the past where he could live in the moment.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like November being like a metonym, which in poetic literary terms means like a way of like renaming something, right? So like November being like a metonym for just a place of peace. Because at the end he has like a little I don't want to call it skit, but he has like a little outro. Before that, he had like an outro where the people were talking about what their November was.
Skit,
One guy said November was like summer camp for me. Another person said November is this to me. And it kind of alludes to like everybody needs that like that happy space, that space of enjoyment, for real. And I think November pretty much closes out, even though there's 2 more tracks. November is pretty much encapsulates the whole album, and it's pretty much like the closer of the album. Because the other two tracks kind of, I mean, I like the last 2 tracks, but he could have very well easily ended the album with November, really. But November is such a great encapsulation of him seeking his happy place. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think it's a really, really incredible song. And the thing is like, it's one thing to have like captivating lyrics, captivating, production, but for you to also have a concept that, picks your brain, gives you food for thought or whatever, kind of makes it worthwhile. So, so we're to Glitter. Hey, you'd be surprised how much I really like Glitter.
I also do love Glitter too. It feels like glitter, and every time you come around,
but it's
I
crazy.
Feel like glitter.
I didn't realize with Glitter that he was the one on the vocals, and he kind of messed with his voice a bit. There's a couple times I thought it was somebody else, but it's him.
Yeah, it's him.
And I think it's dope. It's kind of like him creating his own alter ego, because he could actually. I think him doing that and kind of like trying to, take himself away from, I don't know how to explain it, but like him kind of making a caricature of like a singer or whatever, and him just like him solely being him is kind of dope to me. Like, I don't know, but like I really like Glitter. I don't think we really have to get into the subject matter of it for real. I think it's him being the opposite of, I'm trying to think of the word. I think it's self-deprecating. Yeah, It's pretty much him being the opposite of self-deprecating in a situation. Him just trying to up himself. And I feel like when you have an album like this that's really, really, because I felt the same way about Care For Me by Saba, right? When you have an album that's so like dark, you kind of need that little sigh of relief at the end. And I feel like Glitter kind of does that a bit. So
I like the whole premise, because he ends November basically with, again, the prelude to Glitter. And the whole premise of Glitter is a song he wrote about this boy. I'm just gonna assume it's a boy, but again, it could be a girl, but it's probably a boy. But it's a song that he wrote for this special person that in November he called, and they didn't pick up, so he left them a voicemail with the playback of the song, and then at the end of Glitter, you basically get this answer machine saying, we weren't able to reach this number, we weren't able to save this message, so he's now like, fuck. So that kind of just ruins his, that whole attempt. And then Enjoy Today right now, I love that beat. And so basically he was talking about how like he was just like, I think he was in a car and he had like vocals from left over from Pharrell, and he just, was just in the car just making a beat, and that's just what he decided to end the album with. And so he was just using leftover vocals he had from Pharrell that he didn't necessarily use in any songs. So like the second half of that song, you can hear like Pharrell just going, like I love that song. And I think again, I get the feeling from that song, which I feel like is at the end of the day is the whole takeaway from that album is, don't stress about, try not to stress about life. Don't think about the past. Don't try to think about, how things were better in the past, how you would like to go back. Don't worry so much about the future and what life has in store for you. It's really about what's happening right now. And that's the thing that you can control. And that's in turn what sets up everything else that follows in your life is the right now. You have to enjoy the right now, because if you don't enjoy the right now, there's no point in living. Because really, if you think about it, to me, anxiety and depression come down to two things. Anxiety is a worry and sometimes a fear of the future. And maybe, whether that's not being prepared or, being excited about the future. At the end of the day, anxiety is relative to the future. Whereas depression oftentimes is about the past. You wanting to go back to how things used to be. Things were better how they used to be. And now it's terrible. Whereas, too often in life where people are usually stuck in those two mindsets where you miss things. And so it's important to be in the now and enjoy what's happening now, because the now is the only thing that you will ever have control of in life. You don't have control of what's going to happen tomorrow, and you can't change what happened yesterday. The only thing you can affect is what's happening today. And so all that song says to me is, take the time to sit there and enjoy today, and remember that today is the only thing that you can ever do something about.
Very well said. Yeah. Now for me, overall, this album, it clocks in like 46, pretty much 47 minutes, but it feels heavier. And in some instances, it feels long, but it also feels short. Like, for me, some days it feels long when, like, I'm just sitting there, right, and I'm really listening to the tracks. Like, not that I don't not really listen to the tracks, but like, like those times where you really just sit there and listen to music and focus in on every like minute detail or whatever.
Yeah.
There it feels like it feels long, but like when I'm just like, if I'm driving around and I play this album or whatever, it feels short, and I think that's in virtue of it being very cohesive at spots. Like, when I say cohesive, I mean like everything, like not and people usually like mistake like cohesiveness to being pretty much samey, or like pretty much like having the same sound, like being monotonous or whatever. But when I say cohesive, I mean like in terms of everything connects so perfectly to where sometimes it doesn't feel like it was that much of a shift. I mean, obviously you get those shifts at certain points or whatever, but it doesn't seem like there like are really hard shifts or that many hard shifts throughout the album. And I think that's when it feels like it's, pretty short, because before you know it, you start off with 4, and then before you know it, you're already at November, and you're like, oh, there's only 2 more tracks. So, but now for me, because I'm gonna let you, because this is one of your favorite albums. But for me, this is most definitely. I most definitely think of this album because it kind of encapsulates
this idea of like 2010s being like a melting pot of sounds. It kind of being like a time period where, you know, things that are deemed old are reinvigorated and like nuanced to it seeming new. When I say that, I mean there's been plenty of artists in the 2010s decade that have tapped back into G-funk, P-funk, blues, all types of like stuff that's been like tapped into before, but with like the growing generation who don't really have any wherewithal about it, feel that it's new when it's really just a modernized version of it. And I feel like this is one of the albums that kind of encapsulates that. And I feel like just the overall subject matter that he has is very needed, especially when we're in a situation where now a lot of people are starting to understand the importance of mental health and starting to understand the importance of people needing support. Even celebrities that are making millions of dollars need support and are not always thriving in the way we think they are. But that's on a personal side. But on just a music side, I just think that it like this album kind of encapsulates the 2010s because it gives you a bunch of different things. It gives you, you know, soundscapes. It gives you great rapping. It gives you food for thought. It gives you braggadocious lyrics. But on the flip side, it also gives you introspection. So, yeah, when I think of the 2010s, I can easily point to this album and say this was one of the decade-defining albums to me. And it kind of will, and I feel like it kind of sparks like the artistry of many upcoming artists that will try to tap into this because I feel like people like Jaden Smith was influenced by this. People even like Cordae to a certain extent was probably influenced by this in terms of like.
I think you see that in the cover of Cordae's last album. I feel like Flower Boy and I can't name the album, but I feel like the art style of those album covers are very, very similar.
Right. So yeah, you can see like the lineage of people that are kind of influenced by this album. Maybe not in like overtly or whatever, but it's most definitely easy to detect. But yeah, I love this album. This is the album that I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but it most definitely made me appreciate Tyler more because I don't use the fan word lightly. Like if I'm a fan, that means that like I'm an avid listener to like practically everything. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, I'm not. So I wouldn't even do that disservice and say I'm a fan. But I will say that this album most definitely played a part in me appreciating his music and appreciating his evolution as an artist over the past series of years. So, yeah.
You know where I stand. You know I'm a Tyler stan. I love me some Tyler. And again, the main reason really comes down to just, you know, I'm gonna just keep talking even though you left, but because I know you can hear me. But the main reason that comes down to me is, you know, the evolution of his sound and how, you know, it's sort of like a reflection of life, how people are always constantly evolving, constantly, you know, changing, constantly making tweaks. And that's basically what his music career represents. It represents that, you know, you can start somewhere, and if you want to reinvent yourself and become something totally different and shock even yourself to an extent. Because I feel like Flower Boy and Igor are definitely albums that, you know, Tyler, when he thinks back at his career, he shocked himself that he was able to make music like this because he never thought he could make music to where, you know, it could be considered on a classic level. And I feel like he has 2 classics now. But the reason why this album is something that's so important to me is just because the time period that it came out and when I really started listening to it really heavily, just again deals around my breakup, and it just helped me deal with a lot of the problems and feelings that I was going through with this breakup. This album, but especially Igor, which, you know, I guess we could talk about Igor another time, but Igor is something that I'll touch more on about this, but Igor is something that really like helped me work out how I was feeling with my relationship, because I feel like Igor, to an extent, goes through the stages of, you know, falling in love and then realizing that the person that you love may not feel the same way about you, or what happens when, you know, you love somebody and the love's not the same, it's not returned, and love kind of fails. But Flower Boy also kind of deals with that to the extent of, to me, Flower Boy helped me deal with the wanting to, you know, go to a better place, not being sure if what I'm doing will be beneficial to me in the end, and wanting to go back to a time where things were better, and, you know, being worried about what people thought about me, where my life was gonna go. And so, you know, all of that, to just have the album end with, you know, enjoy where you are right now. It's the now that matters. The past doesn't really matter. The future doesn't matter. It's the now and what you're doing now that matters. And so that's why I enjoy that album, because I feel like that whole album is a journey through, you know, somebody who's worried about the future and worried about where their career is going to go. Somebody who's worried about the past and worried about, you know, they had these times that they really enjoyed, that they would like to go back to these times because it was less stressful. It was less, you know, of less worry for them. And so he has to Tyler is basically in this dilemma where he's always thinking about the future and also wanting to go back to the past when things were simpler and easier. And then at the end of the day, he comes to the realization that he has to enjoy the now. And so that's why I find this album to be something that I will always hold dear to my heart, because it constantly reminds me that it's about the now. I have to stay focused in the now if I really want to make these type of changes in my life.
There you have it. AY's favorite album. Just to give a sneak preview to the next episode that'll potentially happen. First off, thanks for listening. If you listened to the whole review, that was a pretty lengthy review. I would venture to say probably at least over 45 minutes. But with an album like this, you kind of have to.
Well, at an hour and 16 minutes.
Oh yeah, so we was most definitely chopping it up about this great project. But yeah, so we did Flower Boy. The next album that we plan on doing is Because of the Internet by Childish Gambino. That was the album that came out in 2013. A great album. It wasn't necessarily the album that, I mean, granted, it had songs on there that, you know, put them, not necessarily put them on the map, but like put them
till 2005. Hold up.
Yeah, but like, you know, put them out there, right? But at the same time, it's like, it's an album that, similar to Tyler, kind of like, you know, take elements from other genres and kind of try to infuse it into rap, and just very innovative in concepts and stuff like that. Like, hell, it had his own like screenplay and script and stuff. So, but yeah, no, Because the Internet will be another album that we will revisit and kind of give a thorough review on. And we kind of know that like a lot of you guys probably haven't listened to it, or if you have listened to it, it probably was like a few listens and nothing too crazy. But yeah, that's the next album that we're gonna review. And then if it's really getting traction, we'll probably ask for some fan participation and, you know, see what albums they think is underrated that needs a thorough review from us, and we'll go from there. But the only caveat is that it has to be the album has to be at least 4 years old or close to 4 years old. 4 years old or older. So, yeah. But all right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We recorded this on a late Thursday night. I'm one day, well, a few hours away from going to LA. I'm still ecstatic about that. And I will still be recording my landing, and I'll probably make like a vlog about that whole experience, and like being like being at a battle rap event and getting to meet and see the battlers and stuff like that. So yeah, but thank you guys for listening. AY, would you like to take us home?
I guess so, man. You know, I'll let this man go. You can go ahead and hang up, Malcolm. I got it from here. You know, you got a flight to get to. You got to wake up early. You're leaving at 3 o'clock?
Peace.
Yeah.
Y'all.
This is Malcolm.
Yeah.
But I really hope y'all enjoyed the episode. I always enjoy talking about things like this, you know. Always enjoy topping it up with Malcolm. But we hope you guys enjoyed your listen. Be on the lookout. This channel is about to be a lot more than just a weekly podcast. We're going to try to do some more things with it, whether that's, some monologues from me or from Malcolm, or like vlogs, maybe even some skits, something. I don't know. We'll see. But I think this channel is just going to sort of encompass just Malcolm and I's creativity and just sort of be a funnel for that. But I also plan on releasing a gaming channel at some point soon. I have a whole bunch of clips that I've been just sitting on that I need to release. And I've told myself I was going to make a YouTube, but I just haven't, but I need to. So, be on the lookout for that. I'll definitely end up posting about it when I finally do make it and I stop procrastinating. But I appreciate all of y'all. We'll always appreciate you guys for always joining us. Always, giving us a listen. We appreciate it. Love y'all. Have a good day. See y'all.